I just came across this incredible paper from a recent MIT and Harvard conference, and frankly, it's pretty alarming. It makes a powerful case that the entire nature of cyber warfare is changing, right now, right under our noses.
And it all boils down to this one single question. Could a cyber attack actually be as destructive as a physical bomb? Now, for a long time, the answer was a pretty clear no. But this paper argues that artificial intelligence is about to change that answer for good. Okay, let's get into it.
You see, for decades, cyber operations have been powerful, sure, but they've always hit this kind of glass ceiling. Yeah, they could disrupt things, they could spy, but they could never really deliver that strategic knockout punch all by themselves. This is what the experts call the gray zone. Think of it as that murky space between actual peace and, all-out war. It's where most cyber stuff has lived. It's annoying, sometimes it's costly, but it never really reached the level of a kinetic strike. A real-world physical attack. And the reason for this is what the paper calls the human ceiling. It makes sense when you think about it. At the end of the day, a person, a human being, had to find the target, cook up the exploit, and then manage the whole campaign. That human element put a very real, very hard limit on the speed, the scale, and the intensity of any attack. Now this slide is where it gets really interesting, because it breaks down those human limits into 6 fundamental problems that have always held cyber weapons back. So for instance, take the signaling paradox. It's not like a missile, where seeing it is what makes it scary. With a cyber weapon, the moment you use it, the secret's out, and the target can just patch the vulnerability. Poof, it's gone. Then there's this subversive trilemma, which basically meant you could have your attack be fast, or intense, or controlled, but you could never have all 3 at the same time. But that entire reality, that whole set of rules and limitations we just talked about, it's being completely shattered. And the hammer doing the shattering? It's artificial intelligence. And this just lays it out perfectly. It's like night and day. Everything that made human-led operations slow, fragile, and ultimately fixable is being flipped on its head. AI makes these operations autonomous, adaptive, and it can inflict damage that might just be permanent, all at a massive, simultaneous scale.
So here's the crucial point. AI systematically goes through and solves every single one of those 6 problems we just saw. The weapon isn't a single piece of code anymore. No, the AI system itself is the weapon. And it's a system that can find new vulnerabilities on the fly, adapt in real time, and yeah, it can manage speed, intensity, and control all at once.
And look, this is not just some far-off, futuristic theory. According to the paper's own open-source intelligence analysis, this shift is already well underway in the real world. The paper points to a string of Israeli cyber operations against Iran. And what's really telling here is if you look at that political trigger column. See, these attacks aren't just happening whenever a technical opportunity pops up. No, they're being deployed at will, timed to match military campaigns or to hit back for specific actions. That shows a huge shift from opportunistic hacks to a strategic capability that's always ready to go. And this quote, which the paper attributes to an Israeli Defense Forces officer, it really says it all. The players in this game are starting to think of AI-enabled cyber not just as some support tool, but as a primary strategic weapon, right up there with air power. So, this new world leads us to a pretty terrifying conclusion. That old, comfortable belief that all cyber damage is temporary, that it's always reversible, that assumption is now dangerously out of date. And this graph shows us exactly why. Each of these dots is an AI model's performance on tasks that are basically stand-ins for offensive cyber skills. Things like finding weaknesses or managing an attack. Don't worry about the specific models, just look at the trend lines. The trajectory is just steep, and it's heading straight up. The ability for AI to target, exploit, and run complex operations isn't just growing, it's accelerating like a rocket. So the paper offers a new way to think about this, and they call it the VR framework. It sounds a little technical, but it's actually super simple and really powerful. If the velocity of the attack, the VA, is faster than the velocity of your recovery, the VR, then the damage effectively becomes permanent. The system can just never ever catch up. So how does AI actually pull this off? 2 main ways. First, it just attacks with a speed and complexity that human defenders, we can't keep up. But second, and this is the really insidious part, it can quietly go in and corrupt your backups over time. So that means when you finally try to restore everything, you're just putting a system back online that the attacker already owns. The damage becomes truly, truly irreversible.
Okay, so if the attacks are evolving this fast, what about our defenses? Are they keeping pace? The paper's assessment is blunt. Our policies and our frameworks are lagging dangerously behind. Our main tools, like the NIST framework, were built to handle AI failures, accidents, not intentional, malicious attacks from an AI agent. And MITRE's Atlas is all about how to defend an AI model, not how to defend against one when it's being used as the weapon. It's like we're writing fire codes for accidental fires, while arsonists are out there designing flamethrowers.
And this just illustrates the real-world impact perfectly. Lloyd's of London, the heart of the entire global insurance market, has basically said that major state-backed cyber attacks are an uninsurable risk. The potential for damage is so massive, so systemic, that the entire market can't even absorb the potential losses.
So, where do we possibly go from here? Well, the paper doesn't just lay out the problem, it also proposes a fundamental shift in how we approach our defensive strategy. The paper argues that trying to control the weapon, the AI models themselves, is just a losing game. I mean, they're already open source, they're everywhere. So the only viable strategy is to harden the target. We have to shift from trying to avoid all risk to mandating what they call resilience by design.
And here's the three-step plan. First, automate compliance. Make security checks constant and machine-readable. Second, use the government's massive purchasing power to create a market that actually pays people to find and fix vulnerabilities with AI's help. And third, apply these tough new standards to everything critical, securing our entire digital supply chain from the ground up.
Which leaves us with this final, really urgent question. That line between a cyber attack and a physical bomb, it's dissolving right before our eyes. The threat is measurable and it's accelerating. So the choice we have now is, are we going to proactively build the digital fortresses we need, or are we going to wait and learn their value the hard way?